Hey guys, welcome back. If you're watching this today, it should be Thursday. This is just part one of almost always the two-part videos of each of our sections. So yesterday you should have read Chapter 3, Section 2, and it was on the three branches of government. This is something that, if you remember in Chapter 2, we did have a section introducing us to it. This is a more in-depth introduction, but we actually have chapters 5, 6, and 7 that really go in depth in all of them. So as always, there's always going to be overlap. It's not a big deal. In fact, it's probably better for you since this is one of the most important parts of government and civics is actually like knowing the Constitution, knowing what the different branches can do. So as we start, like we always start, let's look at the bell ringer. Number 1, describe your favorite thing about our government created from the Constitution. So maybe, for instance, you can think about the Bill of Rights, you can think of our amendments, you can think of the branches. Maybe you're very passionate about annexing states. I don't know. So tell me what you think. Number 2, what is your least favorite part of government? This one you might have to think a little bit about. It might be easy if you or your family is very party aligned, because right now we're very divided. And I'm laughing, not because I think it's funny. I think it's actually bad for us. But right now both parties are very divided, so I would think that if you're more right-leaning, you can say some things about government that the left does or the left supports, and then vice versa. If you're more left-leaning or your family's left-leaning, you probably can pick off some things from the right that you don't agree with or you think are bad for us. Unfortunately, that's what it is right now. Like if we snapshot 2020 in October, hopefully that changes and we can come together, because it is not good for us. But I'm sure you guys can, as 14, 15-year-olds still critique government and say, maybe this isn't right, or I don't really agree with this. I think this is kind of old. We should probably change it, or we should have this become new, or this should be erased, whatever you guys think. There's plenty of ideas, unlimited ideas for this. So let me know what's awesome, what is bad, or what should we fix, or what should we get rid of, all right? Let me know what you think. All right, let's move on. So for this video, we're going to look at the separation of powers, and we're going to start to look at the main responsibilities for each branch of government. Okay, we are just looking at some bigger ideas of the branches, and we do really dive in deep later in the other chapters. Tomorrow we'll look at more of the main responsibilities of the branches of government, and we'll also discuss the system of checks and balances, which is fantastic, and thank goodness that each branch divides their power and they do not work together. Oh wait, they do. Political parties. Oh man, just like the framers warned us. Anyway, here are key terms. We have separation of powers, legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branch, all of these being introduced to us before, so hopefully you have a clue of what they are. Congress, which is the House of Representatives and the Senate, cabinet, checks and balances, and veto. All right. So let's take a look at this slide, the separation of powers. I think my head is in the way. This is the image you're supposed to look at, but I'll go back. So we get this from the framers, such as James Madison, because you have to think of where we came from to start. If you have a monarchy or an absolute monarchy, it's dangerous when you have over 200 laws punishable by death, or if you have to worship this God this way, right? Like be Anglican, for instance. And even if you worship the same God but slightly different, you could still be beaten to a pulp or executed. Some of that's so extremely wild that you want to make sure that maybe the one controlling the military doesn't make the laws, and the ones that make the laws don't decide what is fair or reasonable, or punishments such as courts. So we do try to divide these powers. Because we thought it was dangerous. James Madison said that's the definition of tyranny, to have all of these different powers just in one branch or with one person. So what they have to do after the Articles of Confederation is create a strong government. Remember, but it's also limited. A strong central government, limited powers. States still have their powers, if we remember from last section. And one way we can do this is with checks and balances, to make sure things are balanced, that they all kind of work against each other almost for the betterment of us, for the people. So to prevent this tyranny, we separate the powers. We separate them into 3 branches. That's kind of where the tree image is, where my face is blocking. Or right here, you can see it in the bullet points. One branch is going to write the laws, right? The legislative branch looks like legislate, which means law. One branch would execute the law, make sure it is upheld. If that means military, sure. But it means that they have to carry out the law. This is not just the military. The executive branch would also mean maybe, let's say, well, this is more modern, but like the FDA, to make sure we have laws that consumers are safe from your gallon of whole milk. Because before they used to put chalk and plaster in it to give it a more or a different consistency, right? Like some of our food products weren't safe. If you had Durr, Keller, Crosley, you've probably at some point looked at Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, and you probably didn't really think, because they didn't even think back then about the immigrants and their situation and how they were treated, but you probably thought, well, holy smokes, there's what in my food, right? So it's the same thing. Anyway, to circle back to my point, because I'm going down rabbit holes, I'm sorry, guys. You get the FDA. It's an extension of the executive branch, so they have to carry out the law. You know, you get the legislative branch, the lawmakers. They say that you can't just do this to milk. You have to make sure it's safe for consumers. And businesses say, well, whatever I can do to cut costs, I don't care. So you get the executive branch, specifically the FDA, and they come in and they shut the business down. They give them a hefty fine, and they say you can't do this, and you have to pay out these consumers that you gave that awful chalk plaster milk to. So executive branch means carrying out the law. Judicial branch looks like judge, doesn't it? Well, these are the courts, specifically the Supreme Court. So, all right, here's another image because my face blocked it. So again, here's power broken up, separated, and they will balance each other, and we'll go over that tomorrow. But isn't it so nice that, you know, there's no way they can work together, right? Unless they have a political parties, Republicans, Democrats. Yeah, and that goes out the window, unfortunately. All right, so we'll start here with the legislative branch. So again, they're the lawmakers. They're the lawmaking body. We also call this Congress. Now, all Congress means when we talk about it, if a congressman, a congresswoman, is either a representative, as in the House of Representatives, or the Senate. They're the 2 lawmaking bodies that we get, if you remember, and they kind of balance each other too, which is pretty cool. They don't. Well, let me put it this way. A lot of what people think the president does, Congress actually does. All throughout my life, people would say, you know, gas is this price or this, or what about these taxes or the tariff? Come on, president, come on, give us this. Like it's, I think we have unrealistic and not unrealistic, not just unrealistic, but inaccurate assumptions about what the president can do, because most of what we credit or discredit, like whatever we say is awesome under, let's say, an Obama or a Trump or a Clinton or a Bush, if we totally bash these presidents, these 2, if we're like, this sucks with Trump or Obama or Bush or Clinton, like whatever, a lot of it actually has to do with Congress. Like these guys are doing most of what we credit or discredit them with. If we're talking about taxes, if we're talking about new laws, you know, if we're even talking about gas prices, for instance, like gas prices for, this was a big deal, like 2008 and so in 2010, not so much now, but this really had to do with laws and taxes and tariffs and regulations and in general the consumers, like what we do. You know, this is how markets work. Like we determine the prices based on supply and demand and a bunch of different things. But you know, if you really liked or didn't like George Bush at the time, it's like he doesn't have a lever to say, okay, gas is going to be $4.24 now. So we get things wrong with this, and I think it's almost enlightening to think that we can, I guess, be more mindful of what the president actually does, and if anything, be more critical of Congress. You know, the Republicans and the Democrats. What are they doing for us? What are they doing? How are they shaping taxes and laws and regulations? These are even this is the branch that declares war. It's not the president. No, there's other war powers, but we'll get into that stuff later. In addition to that, the vice president, so Mike Pence right now, he's actually the leader of the Senate. The leader of the House is always called the Speaker of the House. Representatives have to be 25 years old to serve, and they only serve for 2 years. The Senate, you have to be 30 years old, and you can serve for 6 years. So, if we also remember, we have 435 representatives in the House, and we have 100 senators in the Senate. Each state has 2 senators, and then House, it just depends. Smaller states might have 3, bigger states might have like 30, right, or more. Now for today's video, because I don't have too much more in this PowerPoint, I don't want to give you too long of one. I'm going to stop it there. Tomorrow we'll look at the executive branch, the judicial branch, I'll talk about it, checks and balances, and I'll give you review questions, okay? So short day tomorrow, and I might also give you some Halloween extra credit since it will be Friday. In class, I'm actually going to watch like a 20-minute video on this stuff, but I actually purchased it so I can actually show it to you guys because you're not like with me. But regardless, let me know if you need anything. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm putting in the grades by 3 o'clock today, as in Thursday, and then that's a wrap. That's all I can do. So let me know if you need anything. That's it. See you guys.